Welcome back everyone to Caelesti version 0.20. This is the god knows what number update now of Caelesti, not the 20th one, but like probably quite a bit more now to be honest, but this is the first episode of what I would call Caelesti 2.0. I've been trying to think about whether or not to change the numbering system for this specific update because everything has changed so drastically, but for those of you that don't know, I will quickly catch you up on the history of Caelesti. When I made Caelesti version 0.1, it was a brand new version of Skyr, which was my old resource pack called Scalibus Custom Universal Resources. And the idea of Universal Resources was that it would be a resource pack that you could use under any setting, under modded resources and data pack resources and things like that. Now, Caelesti evolved into a better version of Skyr, where I had a revised art style and a better view on resource pack creation. And then obviously what happened after a few weeks was I started to get a different vision entirely. And then recently I decided to scrap the entire project, start on Caelesti Lite, which would force me to create a lot of things from scratch as opposed to having these old half recycled and half used textures. And now today we have the newest version of Caelesti, which has incorporated those new features from Caelesti Lite and given them the good old Caelesti treatment, in which they now have CTM features enabled for them as well. So without further ado, I am very excited to bring you the first update of Caelesti 2. Yeah, it's not really, but the version system's staying the same. It's 0.20 or update beta 20 or whatever you want to call it. Out here in front of me, I have all of the new blocks and items that were added in Caelesti Lite and that retained from Caelesti version 0.19.3. You may recognize a lot of these. Some of these are subject to change. Obviously, we've got some CTM going on there, which I'll get to later in the video. But basically, I know there's a lot of people on my channel that only watch Caelesti. Caelesti Lite's videos do naturally get less views because obviously people are much more interested to see the fancy OptiFine stuff. So for those of you that aren't caught up, this is basically a bunch of new stuff that I've made from Caelesti Lite. For example, beforehand, when I made my custom grass texture and custom dirt texture, it was based on the vanilla dirt texture, but for example, with the pebbles removed from the dirt and with a new grass shape that went further down the block. I have now created my unique dirt texture, which is rotational and has 8 variants on top, bottom, and sides, and always lines up nicely. And it's really cool. I really like it personally. It took me a little while to get used to it. Some people say it looks like mincemeat or cauliflower. I'm fine with that. It's dirt at the end of the day. Basically, Caelesti has gone from a Vanilla Plus style pack to a more stylized version of a cartoony resource pack, which I actually really like. So we have new textures here for dirt, grass, leaves. We have new things for oak wood. Oak wood? That's not oak, that's birchwood. We have new mushroom block textures, and again, we have a fancy block states thing going on here where brown mushroom will have a unique internal texture when the sides are stripped away. Same for red mushroom, which becomes a bit of a pinky color on the inside, and also mushroom stem, which now has a unique top and side texture, which is something that I'm starting to do quite a lot of in Minecraft, actually. We also have a bunch of items here that have been freshly made. So we have arrows, books, feather, stick, flint, emerald, quartz, a unique debug stick texture, which is a red wrench, and of course, unique sapling textures, which were made in the most recent version of Caelesti Lite. So we have acorns for oak trees, spruce cones for spruce trees, birch catkins for birch trees, and so on. And you can see those lined up at the top there with their 2 block states, with the initial sapling placed in the ground, and then stage 1 where it actually turns into a sapling as opposed to just the seed item in the ground. And as you can see there, we've got quite a few items that are from that update. That's kind of what was made in Caelesti Lite, basically. And now we have a new list of features that were upgraded to have the Caelestification, or I need a new word for that, but never mind. So first of all, without further ado, we have item textures. So we have CIT for name tag textures. Now the name tag was something that I really liked in the original versions of Caelesti, because what I did is I basically made it so that the name tag had no writing on it and then gained writing when it had a name, such as Dave, as you can see there. And of course, we had a bunch of Easter egg stuff. So we have Dinnerbone, where it's flipped upside down, Grum, which has the exact same effect. We have Jeb underscore, which is pulsating rainbow colors. As you can see there, I think it looks really cool. Decided to change up the way that this worked this time, so it's just a generic rainbow as opposed to matching the sheep colors, and I think the item texture looks much better for it. We also have Toast, we have Johnny, which actually has emissive red writing on it now, and we also have Creeper Magnet, which is obviously, I vowed to recently basically add a thing to my texture pack every week, which would be based around TCC, and I found out that actually there's an Easter egg in TCC where if you name a Creeper Magnet in the style that you see here, it will actually drop an Easter egg item. I won't spoil it for you. I recommend going and checking it out yourself, but as you can see here, we have a custom item texture for the name tag when it's named Creeper Magnet to match along with Johnny, Toast, Jeb, and of course the upside down one as well. And I think they look really good. Again, this uses the new string texture, which I will discuss now. We have a new texture for string. It looks very different to vanilla string. I wanted to make sure that it was unique, basically. And I think it looks really good. I really like my stylization of it. I think it looks pretty nice. It looks like a loose wrapping of string as opposed to like the nice bundled up circle of string that we have in vanilla. And now that we have the new texture for string, I also wanted to make a new texture for the bow. And let me tell you, I am very, very happy with the bow texture. I've had an item saved in my inspiration folder from God knows where for a bow shape that I've been wanting to replicate for the longest time. And now I've finally done it. And I also decided to go the extra one step, as I like to, with my packs. And the bow actually has 6 different textures as opposed to the vanilla 4. So it has the standby texture, which you can see in my hand right now. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different pulling animation textures. And the difference being, when the bow is actually fully pulled now, it has a unique texture. Usually in vanilla Minecraft, the different textures are at 0.3 pulled, 0.65 pulled, and 0.9 pulled. And of course, the pulling is a boolean that goes from, not a boolean, but it's a value from 0 to 1, basically. For every millisecond that you're pulling the bow, it changes from 0 to 1. Or not, I have no idea how it works, to be completely honest with you. But mine works a bit differently. We have a different pulling texture at 0.3, 0.5, 0.75. Those numbers aren't exactly correct, but the bottom line being the last texture, which displays here, where the sides of the bow are really, really heavily pulled back, as you can see in my hotbar, that is actually at pulling 1. So you can now see when the bow is definitely at the maximum pull strength, basically. I have to feed that pig now. Please. I'm such a bad archer. Yes! Oh. What? That seems to be an issue in the most recent update of OptiFine. Sometimes if you just look at stuff in the distance, it just disappears. It's very strange. But yeah, anyway, I really like this bow texture. I think it looks really good. I'm looking forward to doing visual enchanting for this. I think it's going to be really cool. I also have a new texture for Bedrock as well. And as we did in the old versions of Caelesti, Bedrock now has a unique texture when it's at the bottom of the nether as well. I know this isn't necessarily correct, but I still love this idea. The idea that the nether is actually directly underneath the overworld, and the bedrock ceiling that we have in the nether is the bedrock floor that we have in the overworld. I love that idea, and by that logic, it means that the bottom of the nether could have its own unique style of bedrock. So as you can see, my bedrock is actually kind of like a reddy brownish color in the bottom of the nether. Just a little Easter egg if you are mining at the bottom of the nether for netherite, stuff like that. I also have a new texture for the Quartz CTM. Obviously, one of the first things that we did in Caelesti was we completely remade all of the Quartz textures, simply because I actually kind of just stole the vanilla ones and recolored them, which is a bad thing to do, I know. That's what I'm trying to fix in these updates, basically. And as you can see here, my new Quartz texture has been mapped to the Quartz pillar CTM. I still haven't decided what to do for the horizontal CTM for the pillars, but for now, they just work with that vertical style, as you can see there. I'm honestly thinking of just having like a generic end piece for these, which is just similar to the bottom piece of the vertical pillars. But again, I'm not entirely sure how best to do it. So if you guys have any recommendations, please do let me know. It'd be very cool. Actually, why don't we do like a wide, like this texture and this texture, but wider when it's horizontal? That might look really weird. I'm going to have to experiment with that, though. That might look really cool. But yeah, moving on from that, we have one of my favorite item textures from the most recent updates. This is the diamond texture. I am very, very happy with this texture. I had this idea completely out of the blue while I was just on the bus or in the shower or whatever it would be, as I usually do, and I had to just immediately jump and write this thing down, do a little doodle of what it should look like, basically. And I came to make it the next day, and I just loved it. The second I saw it, I absolutely loved it. It's a massive, massive improvement from my original style at the diamond texture. I don't know what I was thinking with that. I think I had an inspirational image for that texture, actually, which was more of that shape, but clearly my version of it didn't look that good, so I just kind of ditched it. And I love this new diamond texture so much. The color scheme, the lighting, the amount of glare that we have on the side here, it just looks beautiful. I think even like turned that way, it looks really good as well. I really like this texture. I posted it on my Instagram a little while ago. If you are interested, you can follow me on Instagram. I do post stuff there occasionally. But yeah, we also have a slightly updated emerald texture. Since the diamond texture was now so fancy, I thought the emerald texture looked a bit crap. But I still like this vertical stylization of the emerald, so I just simply made it a bit longer and tweaked the colors a little bit as well. We also have a new texture for the diamond block, which again, I'm not happy with, so I'm going to change this already. I swear to God, it will be an ongoing thing in Caelesti. One day I'm just going to add every diamond texture we've ever made and just have like block states random and just have every version of the diamond block texture and emerald block texture, because I'm just so unhappy with this, as always. Weirdly enough, I believe it was actually a point in the past where the emerald block had this kind of situation where I could never come to a conclusion on what emerald block texture I wanted to go with. I had so many different ideas, so many different styles, and I finally settled with this. And you know what? I actually do really like this texture now. I can't guarantee that I won't change it in the future, because clearly I have issues with, compression block textures, but I do like this one. I do not like this one. This one is more of like, it uses the color scheme of the new diamond, but I don't like it. I don't know what to do. I just can't do this yet. I don't know. I'll get there. I'll just keep trying, and eventually it will work, I guess. We also have a fancy new thing for glass. This is something that I've been planning for a long time now. But this is basically a really strange glass model that involves an inverted cube. As you can see here, the glass is a bit weird. You can see the other side of the glass. Not something that you ever thought you wanted, but now, trust me, I'm used to it. I love it. I could not live without it at this point. It looks especially good with CTM because it means that you can basically just see the other edges of what would be a large glass cube. Now, in reality, you're not really going to build a 2x2x2 glass cube, but of course, when you use this thing to build walls like that, I think it actually looks really good. I think it does, especially when you use it to build floors as well. Like, you know, if you have like a glass floor in your base, again, cool. I like it. It shows the thickness of the glass as opposed to it just looking like a really thin, you know, pane on top, I guess. I don't know. I really like it. And of course, you know, with the interest of making Caelesti a unique and original resource pack as opposed to just recycling vanilla item textures and block textures, I have actually invented a new glass texture as well. So again, it has this more darker, duller shade of grey at the bottom and a more neutral colour. The vanilla glass is more blue, like a cyany blue, I believe. So mine is just more grey. It's just less saturated. And I actually really like the colour scheme of it. I think it looks really good. And in typical Caelesti style, I have overthought yet another feature. This is glass panes. Glass panes are a bit of a weird one for me. There is a really specific issue with glass that I have been noticing now for the longest time, and I've realized that it was possible to fix it, so I've been trying to fix it recently. And that is the idea that when you place glass panes down in vanilla, you get this kind of effect. Hopefully me in post-production remembered to add the screenshot there, basically. Now, I realized that using block states, I could basically specify every single situation in which glass panes can be placed and have a unique texture be displayed over the top of them using block states. Now, what I didn't realize is that you can actually do this fancy version of CTM where you can specifically define a tile but not connect to that same tile but any block that has a different texture as long as the block ID is the same. So essentially match tiles equals glass pane, whereas connect is equal to block, not tile. So yeah, it's a weird one, but I didn't realize this was a thing, but it is a thing. And for some reason, I doubt anyone has ever really used this, if I'm honest, because probably I'm the only person crazy enough to attempt something this stupid and unnecessary that no one will probably ever benefit from. But basically, I think it looks really good. So every single time you place down glass panes now, they will always have this fancy ass end texture in every single possible situation you can imagine. You place glass down initially and you have a bar. You place two down and it works like this, and that almost looks like a correctly sized glass pane. Now that pane connects to a block and it extends just like that. It works perfectly. This took quite a while to get right, and more than anything, it's a lot of copy and pasting files and making sure that things work correctly based on their setting, but this does work, and I really like it. It's one of those things, again, that now that I've done it, if I was ever to remove it, why would I? I think it looks really good. And what I'm hoping is a lot of people see this, download my pack, steal this block states folder, make their own textures, obviously, but basically use this because I think it fixes a lot of weird issues with glass panes. Now, 99% of the time, people will just have them with walls at the end, right? There is no reason to ever really have glass freestanding like this, but I can think of at least one occasion now where, say if I was building like, you know, an outside balcony in like a modern house build or something like that, maybe I could use this glass pane to have sort of like a fence/wall type thing, and when you get to the end of the glass pane, it won't just finish like it does in vanilla, it will actually have a proper end, and I think it looks so much better that way. I've also taken into account every type of junction, so here you can see we have the cross junction, which has a weird unique texture on the inside there where it actually ends as you'd expect. Again, the CTM works for this perfectly, and we also have T-junctions working as well, and of course corners in both ways. In fact, I'm going to actually just quickly do the corners actually because it's quite important. So as you can see here on the corner, the glass extends all the way to the end on this side, but on the other side, it extends all the way to the end, which is actually 2 pixels shorter than the outside. As you can see, I've overthought this quite a lot. There are a lot of textures involved. We've done full CTM for 4 different types of tiles. And of course, that's the bit where I have to say I have not done the colored glass yet, simply because it is a huge job, a ridiculous job. Every single color of glass has to have 4 types of full CTM. So we're talking the middle texture, which you can see here, the end textures which aren't connected, the end textures which are connected, and of course this cross texture that you get whenever you have a T-junction or an X-junction in the glass panes. And we have to do that for every single color of glass. So I haven't done it yet because it's going to be way too time consuming. But obviously, as I mentioned, I do really like this feature. So at some point in the future, we are going to do this for every single one of these 16 colors. It might not all be in one update. I might just simply make it so that if I'm bored one day or I'm just watching some TV and need something to do in the background, I might just start doing these kind of like casually, but it's basically just a huge job. There's going to be over 3,000 files for Glass CTM once this is done, but again, I like it. This is what Caelesti is good for, in my opinion. Huge projects that are too insane to complete that I want to do because I think it looks pretty in this very specific situation that no one will ever benefit from. So yes, welcome to Caelesti if you're new to the channel. I'm glad you like it. But yeah, as you can see here, this is actually a really good example of what it looks like in vanilla. The glass kind of comes to an end unnaturally here and looks really dumb, whereas this is what my new one looks like. As you can see, it connects really nicely. Every single scenario, the glass just looks betterer, and I'm very happy with it. Moving on from that, we have a new torch texture. Yeah, can I just say, controversial, perhaps, who knows? I've kind of become aware that the torch texture is one of the things in my resource packs that has been unchanged forever. For those of you that don't know, my first resource pack was called SCDT, which was Scalabar's Custom Default Textures. It was your typical run-of-the-mill vanilla plus resource pack, and it was crap. It did not follow any pixel art rules. It was rubbish. I just kind of like enjoyed doing it, really. That was about it. I had no skill, I just enjoyed doing it, and I enjoyed making videos about it. Now, I made a torch texture back in the day, which had a differently coloured brown handle, a more yellow flame, and also a grey brazier going around the flame as well. Now, I loved that style. I loved my torches with braziers. I thought it looked really cool. But again, it's not forever, and Caelesti does not fit that kind of style anymore, so I decided to create a new torch texture, which was based around our new neutral wood texture that we use for things like sticks, fishing rods, bows, and that kind of thing. And I really like the new torch texture. So I'm really sorry for those of you that don't like the new torch texture, because I know that some of you won't. I know that some of you do love the old torch texture. There have been memes created about the old torch texture. Again, he was perfect, but he had to go because Caelesti is not that thing anymore, I guess. But as you can see here, we have a new flame particle as well, which actually matches up better with the coloration of the torch. I will at some point in the future be changing the furnace to match that flame coloration, and as you can see here, I think it looks pretty good on the dungeon spawner as well. The torch in its item form actually also is a full block now, as opposed to the 2D item generated type texture that we have for other things in the game. And again, that's just because I think it looks better in your hand like that. It just looks like a full torch as opposed to a slightly flatter version of the same item that we see here. Moving on from that, we have the ladder. And again, surprise, surprise, I'm not that happy with this. I don't really like it. I've been trying to figure out how to do the shading properly on this thing, and I think there's going to be no way to do it other than maybe an old-fashioned trial and error, basically. But for the time being, I do like it. It's using, again, the neutral wood colors that we've now picked out, which will be used in the future for things like chests, bookshelves, and loads of other stuff as well. But again, the shading on this thing is horrendous. It looks way too 2D. This is like an OCD craft type situation right now, which, again, Caelesti is not. So I'm going to change these at some point in the future for sure. But I kept them in for now because I really like the item model. I think it looks really good. As you can see here, the item model has a custom hold position in the hand, which I think looks really nice. You can also see it has a custom hold position in the first person view, which looks like how you would actually hold a ladder. And of course, the item texture in the inventory is actually a model as well. So I think that looks really cool. You can kind of see a better idea of what the ladder looks like there. I think it looks really nice. So we're going to keep these in for now, but again, do not hesitate. They are going to get changed. I realize the texture is way too flat for what it is, but yeah, ladders go burr, I guess. Vines now have CTM. This is something that I was planning ever since I added the new vines in Caelesti Lite. Obviously, in Caelesti Lite, we had the 8 variants of vines and the unique roof textures, and of course, the hanging textures that you get as well. I was always planning on adding the end CTM to all 8 variants, and again, I think it looks really good. As you can see there, it kind of ends nicely with every single type of vine. The only thing that I would consider doing in the future with these, really, is actually adding top CTM to them as well, because currently the vines end, as you can see there's a nice curve off with that specific texture. This one comes to 2 points, as you'd expect. They all work like you'd expect for vertical CTM, but of course the top part of the vines comes to an abrupt ending like that. So I think at some point in the future, I'm probably going to add top CTM to all 8 of the variants as well, which will be really easy to do. Just simply add 1 extra file and make 8 new textures, and again, job done, really easy. So I'll probably do that in a near update, to be honest, because it's an easy job that we can get done quite easily. I've also re-added the emissive aspects to glow shroom blocks and also glow shrooms as well. So again, if I make it time set 18,000, these things now glow as they once used to, and I think they look really beautiful. It's a shame, really, because this whole concept of the glow shrooms in the nether was invented around the idea of emissive textures. I love emissive textures. I got my first ever kick of popularity on Reddit thanks to emissive textures. I love emissive textures. I think they're beautiful and have so so much potential. But yeah, obviously these were actually ported to Caelesti Lite in the most recent update, but they don't have their emissive textures. They still have the same coloration, so you still have this blue mushroom with the light blue dots going across it, but they don't glow, and it doesn't look nearly as good as it does here. So thankfully, if you are now using Caelesti 0.20, we have those mushroom blocks back once again, and the emissive textures have been done as you would expect. And finally, before we get started on some of the more interesting stuff that we have in this update, we actually have the Enchanting Table. Now, first of all, as you can see there, the glyphs that fly from the bookshelves to the Enchanting Table now match the custom Enchanting Table language that we have on the Enchanting Table, which is of course based off of the Breath of the Wild Sheikah glyphs, for any of you that don't know. I think this looks really cool. I don't mind the fact that they're HD because, again, the font in my pack is also HD. I think that's fine. But as you can see here, the thing of interest really is the fact that we now have these animated icons for every version of enchantments. And again, I really like this style. Usually, in vanilla Minecraft, what we have on this left side of each enchanting bar or description or whatever you want to call it is basically a little orb with a number next to it. So orb and 1, orb and 2, orb and 3. Now, I don't know about you, but I know how enchanting works by now. I know this takes 1 level and is crap. I know this takes 2 levels and is crap. I know this takes 3 levels and is the only one that anyone ever uses unless they're using this to just cycle through junk enchantments. There is no reason for it to really give us the option to have 3 different ones, because at the end of the day, this one is the best one and you go for this one. Like, you only ever use these ones when you're either really low level and need to enchant something, say if you're in like a UHC type situation, or if you just want to simply get rid of a junk power 1 enchantment and cycle through to what the next one could potentially be. So basically what you can see here is 3 different emblems for how powerful our enchantment is going to be, and they are animated using anim, and I think it looks really, really cool. As you can see here, if I go into survival mode, we can actually see what they look like when we've not got the levels as well. So if I give myself, actually, let's see, give Excalibur Lapis Lazuli 2, please. As you can see here, if I put my bow in, you can see that they are grayed out initially to match the style of the rest of the thing. The grayed out texture here matches the grayed out texture of the text, and then once we put our lapis in, you can see this will now highlight, and of course the little icon will start to glow and spin and be animated, and that works for all 3 of them, as you can see there. I think it looks really, really good. So yeah, as you can see, the Enchanting Table is pretty sweet, right? It's pretty good. Yeah. So anyway, obviously, if you've seen the thumbnail, which you would have done because you clicked this video, there are some really, really interesting updates in this version of the pack. OptiFine recently added the ability to have custom entity models for both the bee and the strider, as well as a bunch of other things like all the different minecarts, the trident, the wandering trader llama, all things that we've been needing for the longest time. So again, thank you so much, SP, for giving us those things that we can now edit and make our own thing of. So again, I wanted to show you some of the new features that have been introduced in Caelesti 0.20. So everyone, welcome to the Nether. Obviously the Nether was a huge focus of Caelesti in the past. We had a ginormous Nether update. I am planning on doing the Nether re-update at some point in the future, and obviously I'll come back to you guys with a more specific update for that one, but that probably won't be till version 0.21 or 0.22, to be completely honest. But for the time being, I have gone back and worked on some things that I was really excited to do when the Nether update first dropped. The first of those things is a Strider custom entity model. This thing is one of my favorite features in my pack now, without a doubt. I love it. It's creepy, it's terrifying, it's nonsensical, it's ridiculous. It's one of the exact definitions of what I would want a Caelesti feature to be. So for those of you that don't know, when the Strider was first added to Minecraft, I was a little bit disappointed with its kind of style. I mean, don't get me wrong, it fits vanilla Minecraft. It's quite literally 3 cubes with some flappy hair at the side. And obviously Minecraft is anything but consistent with its mob models and textures. Obviously there's quite a bit of controversy there surrounding the rabbit and the bee, for example. I don't know if I can find the exact screenshot, but I'll try and throw it up on screen right now. But when the Strider was added, I was a little bit disappointed. Don't get me wrong, I love baby Striders. They are adorable, they are really, really cute, but as you can see here, I had different ideas of what to do, and I love this guy so much. He's so cool. He's so creepy. I've shown this to so many people now. People that I know in real life who just, just happen to be walking by. Hey, look at this thing I'm doing. People, online as well. And holy shit. The response I've had is amazing. Everyone says, what is that? It's terrifying. Kill it with fire. Oh, wait, you can't. It needs fire to survive. So what the fuck do you do now? And again, this thing works so fucking well. I could not begin to explain to you how the animations work, but to be completely honest with you, this is the first time I've really had a great deal of success using custom entity model animations. Obviously, Ewan has been a massive help with the custom entity model animations. He's basically walked me through all of the different things I've made so far. So obviously we have the creeper legs, which have a different joint so that the creeper walks correctly. And of course, I've actually made a new model for the bee, which we'll be getting onto in just a second. But for this guy right here, as you can see, his animations are perfect. I'm so happy with them. It uses a combination of sine waves, covs waves, ifs, clamps, and so many other things to make sure that everything works perfectly. And again, I've actually gotten to a point now where I am really confident in my ability to make custom entity model animations, so I am no doubt going to start making a lot more mob models going forward, which is really, really exciting in my opinion. So yeah, as you can see here, if I get myself a saddle and a glow shroom on a stick, we can actually ride these guys as well. And unfortunately, this is the bit that I have to introduce. Yeah, so you can't model saddles yet. I was really, really hesitant to add this guy in this update because I really wanted to wait until you could model saddles, because I believe this is a known issue, and SP614X, the guy who makes OptiFine, he's aware of this and he's going to fix it in the future. It's either going to be fixed with MBT tag detection, or alternatively, we're going to just be given the ability to model the saddle on all the things that the saddle can go on, so, you know, pigs, horses, and striders. But for the time being, I don't care. I love it. I think it looks really cool anyway. So we're going to ride this guy, use my glow shroom, and as you can see, he looks wonderful. Look at him go. I love this thing so much. I really fucking do. His little antenna jiggle when he walks. People say he's terrifying. I think he's adorable. I think he's amazing. There's also a big problem that I found with you know, chem models that a lot of people have. A lot of people who have, like, you know, bobbers on the front of their mobs like this, they would have them pointing directly forward, but that means that when you're looking at the mob, which presumably is looking directly back at you, they actually disappear because you look at them from a specific angle where the pane basically disappears. If I go into spectator mode, we can probably try and imitate something right here. Let me see. Oh yeah, there's there's variants with missing legs as well. That is intentional. There's a 1 in 8 chance. Yeah, 1 in 8 chance that a strider is missing one of its front 2 legs or back 2 legs. Kind of in reference to the idea that you have those house spiders as a kid that you find they just have like a weird number of legs. Or maybe that was just me. I've spoken to a few people about that who don't seem to relate to that thing, but you know, it happens to me quite a bit. But yeah, I think these guys look really, really awesome, and I had to program quite a lot of things here. I say program, it's more like it's more like maths basically. You basically use like maths, sine waves and cos waves to basically kind of, you know, base animations off of the existing animations. So it's all quite boring, to be honest, but I really enjoy doing it now. It's quite fun. But yeah, baby ones look cool as well. They actually move really speedy, as you can see. He's so speedy. Can I get rid of the adults, please? Have I lost my strength? No? Hello? Why do I... Hang on. And I'm now One Punch Man, so boop, and boop, and boop. So yeah, as you can see here, the babies are adorable still. They still look terrifying. They are obviously the same texture, but again, they move so quickly. Look at him go, and his little antennae are jiggling. He's so adorable. He looks so weird. But I love it so much. I'm so happy with these guys. It took me quite a while to texture these guys. The texture UV is absolutely huge. Obviously, they have this giant beetle shell type thing, which is, of course, based on the carapace of a, you know, of a beetle. Am I using the right word there? Carapace? I think it is. But yeah, they're really snazzy. Nothing much I can really say. Download Caelesti. See them for yourself. They're awesome. So, yeah. So, next up for custom entity models, we have bees. And yes, I know what you're thinking. They're tiny. They're small. They're small bees now. When bees were first introduced into Minecraft, I was initially quite disappointed by how big the bee was, because I thought it was kind of unnecessary for it to be as huge as it was, to be completely honest. And I knew even then that when we had access to custom entity models for bees, I wanted to do something exactly like this. It was either going to be making bees tiny or making every bee into a quote-unquote swarm of bees. Now, don't get me wrong, there are things wrong with this. When they turn really quickly, you do sometimes get that weird issue where the bee on the edge will turn really quickly, but I already have a plan for potentially how to fix that in the future, so we'll come back to you with an updated model if I can do that thing, but I'm not entirely sure that I can just yet, so I'll have to leave it for now. But again, these guys are awesome. They're a huge combination of the types of bees that you can have in a swarm. There are technically 5 bee models being rendered at this location of every bee, but anywhere from 2 to 4 of them are textured captured at any one time. So it uses random entities for a total combination of 25 different types of bee swarms. And as you can see, they all animate pretty well as well. Basically, the bees within their swarms actually move about and rotate and bob up and down and things like that. So you have this kind of cool effect of the bees all moving around within their swarm. And I was very careful when animating this to make sure that they don't actually collide into each other at any point in time. I honestly think they're really cool. If I summon one with no AI, just here actually, summon bee, my location, no AI 1, as you can see here, they all move around quite a lot. There is one of the 5 bees who actually just rotates around the swarm like that, and that guy is the one that's a bit of a problem. When the bee is turning too quickly, he will just, because he's so far away from the center of the block's pivot point, the center of the mob's pivot point, I should say, he basically just spins around like crazy. But as you can see, the ones in the middle, they look pretty cool. They never interact with each other. They never collide. They never like intersect with each other. I honestly just think it's really cool. And when they're moving around, as you can see, it honestly just looks like they're moving about as you'd expect. Now, because this model is huge, and I mean huge, you do occasionally get this issue of them colliding into blocks around them. But you know what? I like this. I like this feature. I think it looks really cool. And of course, this all works perfectly as well. There are 25 different versions of the entity using OptiFine's random entities. They all work perfectly in terms of the pollinated bees with the nectar on their asses, as you can see there. And of course, when we're in survival mode, they do, of course, go angry in the way that you'd expect. Now, something that I haven't done yet is made the angry eyes emissive. But again, it's 50 more textures just to do that. So I think we'll have to come back in the future and do the emissive eyes. If anyone would like to do that, by the way, feel free to, and just send it me and I'll add it and credit you. So that'd be superb. Thank you. Obviously, I never really want to invite people to do texture work for Caelesti because I do want to do all that stuff myself. It's now kind of a case of like personal integrity. I want to make sure that everything that I've made in Caelesti is my own. But if it's just a simple case of copy and pasting textures, then I'm more than happy to let you guys do the work if it is going to make my life a bit easier. So of course I can concentrate on some other things instead. And it's now raining. Okay, fantastic. Weather clear. There we go. Thank you for that. Thanks, weather. Cheers. Very good. So yeah, again, if you want to get the idea of how these guys work yourself, I do recommend downloading Caelesti 0.20 and checking these guys out for yourself. They're pretty awesome. I think they're really cute. Little 4x4x6 bees as opposed to the ginormous ones that we have in vanilla. So yeah, little bees. Now, as some of you will know, I actually put a lot of time and effort into this update to making camouflaged creepers. Camouflaged creepers are one of the most popular OptiFine resource pack features ever made, and I've kind of avoided doing them for the longest time because of how much of a stereotypical trope they are. The things that I truly like doing are the experimental features that no one has ever done before that are really interesting and weird and out there, such as the crazy-ass glass panes and the very unique Strider model that I've been planning to make since the Nether update was first announced, basically. Well, whenever Striders were first announced. Striders were like added really midway through, weren't they? I think they announced the new biomes, and then obviously there was the Piglin model change, and then Striders came like halfway through. But anyway, as soon as the Striders came in, I wanted to do something more interesting like that. I had like a spider type design in mind. I just never thought I'd be able to actually do it to the extent I wanted to. But as you can see here, Striders that spawn... Creepers that spawn in forests will actually now match the surrounding fauna. So as you can see there, they actually blend in quite nicely with surrounding oak tree coloration. So they now use my custom oak tree texture, which I designed in Caelesti Lite 02 or 03. And of course, they are colored correctly as well. I think they look really, really good. And this effect stretches to quite a number of biomes. If we go over to the birch forest over here, you can see there's a different coloration based on the color of the grass in this biome. So because I went through and did a bunch of color map changes in this update, I decided that the best thing to do for the creeper camouflage for now was to camouflage creepers against the local grass color. So for every single biome where we have a notable change in grass color, I've basically gone through and made a grass color version of that creeper. If we go over to the mountain biome over here, you can see once again we have like this minty green version of the creeper, which again matches the local grass color. Now at some point in the future, I'm going to go through even more thoroughly and have a leaf camouflage type creeper for every single biome. But of course, I haven't actually made the leaves for acacia or spruce trees just yet, so I am saving that level of thoroughness for a future update. I'm also planning on having creepers that look like sand in deserts, snow in snowy biomes, terracotta in mesas, and things like that. I have a huge list of ideas for camouflage creepers. They're just going to kind of like half fit into their surrounding, hopefully wherever they are. Now, as I mentioned earlier in this video, the reason why I started doing the creeper camouflage type features is because I recently changed a bunch of the grass color maps. For those of you that don't know, making color maps in this game is one of my absolute favorite features. It's a really easy way of giving every biome in the game a really distinct and interesting feel, and of course tweaking the general colors of the overworld without having to put much effort in. It's the way that most of my packs have gone. I usually do the color maps really early in. As you can see here, we have a new texture for creepers in savanna biomes. Again, they half blend into their environment, which is the intended effect. But as you can see here, we now have a different color of grass that will spawn in desert biomes, and that is again completely intentional. So savannas are more of like a yellowy, kind of dried out grass texture, whereas desert biomes just simply have this really desaturated dead grass color instead. Now obviously in Caelesti Lite, considering that we only have the vanilla triangle type color map, these two types of grass were actually the exact same color. It's not that big of a deal because you barely ever see grass in deserts either, but as you can see here in this very specific circumstance, it kind of looks quite cool because you have this bit of grass weather again. You have this bit of grass flooding over into the desert biome, and it looks completely different to the color of grass that we have over there in the savanna. Is it thundering? Why is it so dark? Hello, husks. It's thundering, isn't it? Because they wouldn't spawn if it wasn't thundering. Weird. But as you can see here, again, we have a unique texture for the creeper, which is based around this dead grass color in the desert. And again, this makes no fucking sense because you barely ever see grass in the desert. But in the future, I'll make it so that usually 99.9% of the time when a creeper spawns in desert, it's definitely thundering, yeah. When a creeper spawns in the desert, it will look like our new sand texture, which I haven't made yet. And usually, there'll be a really rare chance that it looks like the local grass instead, even though you barely ever see grass in desert biomes. It'd be really cool if I could base a mob's texture based on what block it spawns standing on, but you can't do that currently, unfortunately, so we're going to have to just take into account that usually if a creeper spawns near the edge of a biome, maybe it will match the grass there as it transitions into plains, as you can see. But don't worry, for most of the time in the future we'll have creepers that have sand textures, because I think it will look much cooler. For our final collection of feature showcases for today's video, I actually want to head over to a snowy tundra, as you can see right here. Once again, the creeper texture matches the local grass color, so it will blend in with the grass, as you can see there. And again, as I just explained, in the future, it will be more of like a 5% chance or a 10% chance of finding this texture, and a much higher chance of finding the local snow texture into the creeper instead, because again, I wanted to disguise with the surrounding environment, not just the grass, because of course, you barely ever actually see grass in a snowy tundra. But yeah. What you may have noticed throughout this episode is that the sky actually looks completely different. This is not the vanilla sky. Caelesti now has its first Skybox feature, which I'm very, very happy with. I've been planning on doing the Skybox now for quite some time. Skyboxes are, again, another great and powerful feature that you can use to greatly improve the way that vanilla Minecraft looks. The vanilla sky is a really flat pastel blue color, and it doesn't differ much in virtually any biome. It does differ a tiny bit. There are a slight variance in color based on where you go, but for the most part, it doesn't look that good in my opinion. Now, what I've done is I've first of all designed a sky color map for this update, which has basically 4 categories of sky. We have the regular kind of like regular deep blue sky that you would find in plains biomes, deserts, savanna, things like that. You have a slightly colder version of the sky, which you find in mountain biomes, taiga biomes, and so on. And then you have the coldest version of the sky with this very light, crisp blue that you have in snowy biomes and other cold biomes as well. And I said 4, obviously we have like a slightly murky one for swamps as well. But yeah. First of all, the sky color looks really nice, but we also have this gradient stretching from the horizon that goes up and up and up and up and up. Now, what I did is I recently took a picture of the horizon in real life because I just thought the sky just looked really pretty one day, and I realized that gradient on the horizon leading up to the northernmost point in the sky is what makes the sky look so beautiful in real life. So I tried as hard as I possibly could to match that exact style, and I think I did a pretty good job. The way this works is it's a single skybox layer, which is essentially just a grayscale white gradient that leads to a completely translucent color towards the top that is overlaid over all of the different Skybox color maps that we've now got. So it basically looks good in almost every situation. Initially, when I designed this as well, I used a vertical gradient for the sides of the cube, and it looked really crap because you had this really obvious effect of the corners of the skybox being really present. What I did instead was decide to try out this new technique where I basically used a circular gradient stretching from the very center middle of the top piece of the skybox, and that creates this really, really nice sideways effect that we have here instead, and I think it looks really, really good. So basically, a lot of new things have been introduced in this update. We now have a bunch of new color maps. We have a sky color map. We have unique textures for a bunch of other things. We have creeper camouflage. We have a strider model, a bee model, and we also now have the first ever Skybox feature in Caelesti. And I have loads more plans to add loads more Skybox features going forward that are hopefully going to make the game look really, really good. So yeah, that just about does it for today. I really hope you enjoyed Caelesti 0.20. It's one of my favorite updates to Caelesti to date. Again, I don't really know how to describe this. I kind of almost wanted to have a different numbering system for the version of this update because it is a completely different feel to the game. But again, we have only barely scratched the surface on plans that I have for Caelesti moving forward. But the pack now feels a lot more refined. My art style is a lot more definitive. And again, I have a really good idea of what direction to take the pack going forward. Caelesti Lite will still exist as it does for the time being. We're now going to use it to start creating textures for 1.17 in the snapshot versions because, of course, with Caelesti Lite being non-OptiFine reliant, it means that we can work on snapshot features. But yeah, Caelesti's back, baby. I think it looks pretty good. Now, the most recent update of Caelesti has over 12,000 downloads simply because it hasn't been updated for 6 months. But I'm really hoping that people who've already got Caelesti will now switch to this most recent version because, again, in my opinion, it is a lot more polished, a lot more, clean, and it's more in line with the vision of what I want Caelesti to actually be in the future. Loads of features have been removed, loads of features have been updated, and there are loads of brand new features which I never have done before, which I'm really, really happy with. So yeah, anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you haven't already, join the Discord server. We have great discussions about all things Caelesti and Artemis related, as well as a bunch of random shit posting, because you guys are weird as hell. And it's snowing again. The weather hates me. Fantastic. Anyway, on that note, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Remember to download Caelesti. If you haven't already, subscribe. Again, we're getting quite close to 1,000 subscribers now, which is really exciting. And yeah, that's about it. I hope you got inspiration. I hope you enjoyed. And yeah, okay. End of the video now. You can go. Bye-bye.